They're tiny, they're everywhere, and most people have no idea they exist. Plastic nurdles are winding up in our beaches, lagoons, waterways, and inside wildlife. In this video, we're gonna hit the streets to see what people know about plastic nurdles, talk to an expert on these plastic nurdles, and then dive into a lagoon to do some science. Hi, I'm Natalie from EarthSpotter.
And I'm Courtney from San Diego Coastkeeper. And we're out here in Balboa Park, San Diego, California,
To talk about Nurdles. Today is the first International Plastic Pellet Count Day, and we are going to see if people even know what a plastic pellet is.
and another word for a plastic pellet is called a nurdle. And have you guys ever heard of a nurdle?
Never heard of a nurdle.
No.
Okay. Have you heard of, or do you know what a nurdle is?
No.
Ever heard of a nurdle or know what a nurdle is?
No.
Have you ever heard of a plastic nurdle?
No.
Do you know what a plastic nurdle is?
Well, no one really knew what a plastic nurdle was. Plastic nurdles are pre-production plastics. That means that all of the plastic products that you might buy, like plastic water bottles or Tupperware, started out as these tiny little beads that are 2 millimeter to 5 millimeter in diameter. And these beads are being transported all across the country and all across the world to manufacturing facilities to make plastic products. To learn more about what the deal is with nurdles and what they might be doing to our ecosystems, we sat down with Claire Swithenbank Bowman, founder of Trash for Tokens, and an expert on these plastic nurdles.
What are some of the most common ways that nurdles enter our environment?
They're entering the environment from the plastic manufacturers when they're making the plastic products, because they pour them into the dyes in these massive dyes, which out comes your sunglasses.
Let's talk about what Claire means by dyes. She means molds or metal plates in factories where after they melt down the plastic nurdles, they're pouring that plastic into those molds.
Dyes, which out comes your sunglasses. And they fall on the floor and then they're swept into the drains by the workers. And if they don't have the correct netting on, they'll obviously reach our stormwater and then into the ocean. By road, if they're being transported, on trucks, they're in canvas bags, they might have a tear in them, they'll fly off the trucks. By ships, so they're entering in all different areas in different ways.
And
The
trains,
most common.
right?
And then the most important, the trains, because they're being transported from the Gulf of Mexico right throughout our whole planet. And they are flying out of these hoppers because they are not being sealed properly and seen as hazardous material.
Hearing from Claire really puts the problem into perspective, and I wanted to learn more about whether these plastic nurdles were ending up in our lagoons and beaches and waterways. I asked University of San Diego if they were curious as well, and we went to the field to find out whether these plastic nurdles were actually in our lagoons.
At a local lagoon, the team laid out transects and took samples along that transect. They scraped the surface of the sand in these quadrants, and the samples were used to look for microplastics and plastic nurdles. They took a core to see whether any microplastics or nurdles were being buried. The samples were taken to a lab for analysis. Oliver Cole was the main researcher on the project. His data showed a high concentration of plastic nurdles around the railroad tracks. Plastic nurdles were present in the adjacent lagoon, but at a lower concentration, and there were plastic nurdles found in the cores. This suggests that plastic nurdles are falling off of the railroad tracks into the adjacent lagoons and either getting buried or carried out to sea. We also asked people in Balboa Park what they thought about plastic nurdles entering these ecosystems. Let's go see what they had to say.
They're transported and they're spilling, they often just end up in our water bodies. And this is happening all over the country, all over the world.
I feel like if I'm just driving down the road and stuff's falling out of my car, then I would get pulled up. I would get in trouble,
Yeah.
Right.
So if they're doing that and they're not being held accountable, then that seems like something that probably could be addressed.
Plus the fish see a little thing sprinkling out and they think that it's food. So that's like the first thing they're going to go for. And then it's like stuck in their stomach because they can't digest it. And then,
Yeah, and birds. And then
Yeah.
also a lot of those fish we eat and we ingest, and that's becoming more of a problem in humans. And so, I don't know, Natalie, do you want to add anything about like what you can do?
I mean, report when you see nurdles, because there are lots of different sources we might not even know of. This source was not really brought to a lot of people's attention yet, and reporting pollution is how we most often are able to find it and stop it.
They're going to continue to make these things. They need stronger restrictions on how they transport, and so like spreading the awareness helps you guys like get it on the council and a docket and a ballot to vote.
Exactly. So let's head back to Claire and talk a little bit more about what can be done to prevent and stop Nurdle pollution.
So if you lived in a perfect world, obviously there'd be no plastic, but a step down from that, how would these Nurdles be transported?
You know, my mind never stops. Invention, I love inventing things, but there has to be a way, right, to make this environmentally friendly, that there's a win for everyone. Plastic's not going anywhere. So if I had to go take a step back right to the beginning of how Nurdles, why were they even invented to be this tiny little ball that looks like an eggshell? Yes, because they have to pour trillions of those into a dye for the product to come out because they heat it up. But if we took a step back, couldn't we transport them even with like a mesh that would just keep them all together like in flat sheets? So then they were transported to the plastic manufacturer and then they could put the plastic sheets.
Is there a particular country leading the way on plastic Nurdle regulation? And if yes, what are they doing that is making them a trailblazer?
Very good question. I think after the Sri Lanka spill.
Let's pause here. The Sri Lanka spill happened in May 2021 when a cargo ship caught fire off the coast and spilled 70 to 75 billion plastic Nurdles into the ocean that washed up along the shoreline.
After the Sri Lanka spill, I reached out to their environmental and the country and actually helped them, and they submitted a paper to the United Nations UNEP and the IMO. So it was.
Quick debrief. The IMO is the International Maritime Organization, and the IMDG code stands for the International Maritime Dangerous Goods Code, which regulates the transport of dangerous goods throughout the international waters.
This, I believe, is the answer. It's changing the amendment of the IMDG code, because then it's going to push the price up of virgin plastic.
Amending the code and stopping Nurdles at the source makes sense. Each year, there are 445,000 tons of plastic Nurdles that enter the environment. And once they're in the environment, it is nearly impossible to clean all of those Nurdles. They're small, and the cleanups typically are in sensitive environments like shorelines and mangroves, where you can't simply just bulldoze the whole area. And oftentimes, many of the cleanup tools impact the local ecosystem by taking up other small organisms. That said, there are some tools that Claire talked about in order to clean up Nurdles.
What do we have here, Claire?
This is called a Nurdle trommel. I didn't come up with the name, hence Nurdle being what pellets are, also called mermaid tears. And this is just a drum that the mesh has been created the size so that the sand can fall through. So what's left are your microplastics and your Nurdles. So it's not going to solve the problem because there's trillions of them around in our environment. It's a very manual process to pick up and clean up Nurdles.
What is this?
So that is a mermaid tear catcher. I invented it in South Africa. We make it out of ocean-bound PP that our collectors in my foundation, Litter for Tokens, collect. And then we repelletize the ocean-bound plastic and we put it into a dye, and out comes your frisbee/mermaid tear catcher. So I invented the dye that it's like a panning device, so panning for gold, and I designed the holes to be a certain size so that the Nurdles or the microplastics stay behind.
And do you get just as excited finding a Nurdle as you do gold? Is it pretty
actually,
similar?
I think a Nurdle I get more excited for.
Is it more? It's more valuable.
Yeah.
So after hearing all this, you might be wondering what you can do about pollution in your area, specifically microplastics or plastic pollution. If you see something, take notes, take pictures, and report it. Nurdle Patrol and Nurdle Hunt are both organizations tracking plastic Nurdles along beaches. EarthSpotter, if you're in California, can look at that source and see if there's a legal channel to abate that source or stop that source from entering our environment.
If you have something to report or interested in learning more about sources of environmental pollution, please go to earthspotter.org and sign up to join our organization. It's completely free.
Thanks for watching this video, and don't forget to like and subscribe.